This is the Bay and TV Perspective. I'm Brian Bay.
And I'm Greg Tepe. Welcome to our podcast.
And this week's perspective is on college football craziness.
Yes, a lot of craziness.
So all the shenanigans that have been going on in the past few weeks before the college season starts, college football season starts.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Which is hard to believe. It's close. So
Yeah,
I want to start with that real quick before you get into your notes. Is that football's almost here. My favorite sport. I'm excited. And also, we got our college guy, Mr. Brian Bay.
Yeah, and here in Cincinnati, it's been feeling like fall.
Yeah.
Now we're going to lose that. We're about to lose that, but for a couple weeks, we've had some fallish type weather. Not full on, but we're talking low 70s, high 60s, mid 60s at night. So
it's a tease because it makes me think of that time of year more.
Yeah.
And I mean, professional football wise, we have the Hall of Fame game tomorrow from our recording, not from release. And we've had our Dynasty football draft. So football's on the mind.
Yeah, it's on the mind. The weather's starting to get crisp, but we know we'll have that heat wave again like Cincinnati does.
Yeah, I think 90 on Saturday.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, and probably worse later. You know,
I saw a 92 in there too, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure humidity will be 180.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
it'll be
rainforest.
Sweating for no reason.
Yep.
Awful.
But, all right, so a lot to dig into, I think, so let's get into it.
Yeah, what you got?
All right, so it all started, and I don't know how much you're abreast of all the situation because I am the college football guy, so
right. I
do want to see your reaction on some of this stuff. So the first move, obviously, I'm sure you heard about Texas and Oklahoma.
Yes.
To the SEC, and their official date is July 1st of 2025.
Yes. But isn't there talks of where they can bump that up? Did I see that somewhere where with their lawyers and
correct?
All this jazz?
Yeah, there's a lot of legalities going into it, a lot of paying outs, and SEC paying the Big 12 and the teams paying the Big 12 and TV rights and everything going on.
Yeah.
And part of the legalities actually I do have is so the SEC excuse me, has signed a $3 billion deal with ESPN that starts in 2024.
Okay.
So if I were to guess, they would like to have them ready for the 2024 season. So if nothing else, a year earlier.
Yeah.
You know, but with that said, obviously this year's not going to happen.
Right.
But I could see 2023, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think 2 more years with them. And that I would say, and it possibly could be 2022.
Is that the earliest possibility?
Yeah, this year they're playing.
Yeah,
this year they're playing
that stuff. Yeah.
But the thing about college football is, talk about schedules. Schedules are made 10 years out.
Oh,
so it really is gumming up the works anyway.
I forgot about that.
Especially, at least, non-conference ones. Maybe not when they're playing, but, obviously, what you're going to play in your conference. You generally play the same ones, and you have rotation ones.
Yeah.
Penn State, Ohio State, for example, have home and aways.
Well, it reminds me, I knew years in advance that UC is going to play Ohio State in
2028
Columbus or something.
Yeah, 2019 or whatever, yeah.
I forgot about that aspect. So it is still coming up the schedule. I guess maybe more so, maybe the fact, let's just try to, what I mean, I guess, was this schedule is actually made as far as dates and
it's already been released. The tickets have been sold.
So there's that aspect. And I don't know, it is wild because those are big schools from the Big 12.
They are the Big 12,
right? And they're going to the SEC is just trying to take everyone they can. I feel like
that's my opinion. Trying to make a mega conference, if you will.
Yeah,
super conference type of thing, in my opinion. And I mean they'll have. Let me see. Oh, I don't have SEC's number, but one thing that was said.
Are you looking for the number of team schools?
Yeah, number of SEC schools.
I can see if I can Google it.
I didn't write that down, but yeah, I mean, just the SEC's building a mega conference, and I heard that even Clemson and FSU asked about inquiring of entering the SEC.
I feel like I heard that, but more so with Florida State. But when you said Clemson, I can see them being one of them as well.
Well, the article I read said Clemson, Florida State, and maybe Syracuse.
According to Wikipedia, there's 14 in the SEC.
So if they add the 2, that'd be 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because so they, Clemson, FSU reached out, but apparently SEC turned them down.
Okay.
From what I'm hearing. And it was due to concerns that their streaming numbers would not be as good as Texas and Oklahoma. So basically their TV numbers or streaming numbers there. You know, which I'm like, I mean, I guess, because, I mean, Texas has their own network.
Yeah.
So I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, maybe not, but if you combine the two, Florida State's been on a downtick for a while. So, but I can't see how, as a conference, you wouldn't want Clemson.
That's why I'm making that face. Obviously, listeners can't see it, but I'm like, I figured because Clemson has been in the playoffs / championship a ton the last few years.
Yeah.
And then Florida State's still a big enough name.
Yeah, they have a name behind them. But
so, and I'm kind of frowning because I figured the SEC's main goal is try to take every big school in the country and put in their conference. Like when we're grandpas, it's gonna be like we have 80 teams in the conference,
and maybe eventually, and I feel like maybe there's more into that.
Yeah,
as if so like the ACC, as in general, has a 15-year remaining TV deal.
Okay.
So I don't know what's exactly behind the scenes on the SEC Big 12 situation, but I feel like the SEC is going to pay a lot of that money for Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Or in collaboration with, or some way, shape, or form. You know, the contract's going to be written where basically Texas and Oklahoma aren't going to have to buy out their own contracts fully.
Yeah,
it might look
that.
It might look like that legally, but I guarantee part of the contract is SEC's covering it, or a signing bonus for the conference. There's a way that they're covering.
Oh yeah, money talks.
Yeah, they're covering the Oklahoma, Texas. So to cover a 15-year deal.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a lot bigger than they cover the Big 12s, which is what I say through. Did I say through on that one?
I don't remember you saying through a certain year. Just the fact.
Oh, that is 2025. That's July 1st, 2025.
Okay. Okay.
You know, basically July 1st will be the official first SEC day if no one buys out early.
Yeah.
So I think it's like January 2025. Basically a year of 2025.
Yeah.
So after the 2024 season, I believe, is when their contract is up.
It's crazy how in sports television, how much television has, how much weight they pull.
The whole thing. I mean, this is something I just learned, is that all these deals with the conferences, I always thought was just a contract directly with the conference.
Yeah.
Like, I will be in your conference. But for like 15 years or 20 years or whatever it is, which I think once upon a time it might have been that way, but everything I've read on any of these conference moves are how long the TV deals are going.
So it's based
so
around
it's all
TV now.
tied into the TV deal. Yeah. Now back in the day it might not have been that way, but it's all tied into when the TV deal is up and how much they'll be willing to buy them out or move or this or that. You know, and I don't know if each team is on the same timeline for the TV deal or not, but
yeah,
because I would think that'd be kind of silly, because if you try to re-up everyone at once, that means you could literally lose everyone at once.
Yeah, you're gambling there.
But I don't know the intricacies of the deals, but I know most of them are reliant around the TV deals.
Yeah.
You know, or that's where the big money is going to come from. So even if, like, say, Texas was signed through 2028, the TV deal's through 2025, so they'll pay the 3-year fee to get out of the conference. I don't think that's big money.
Yeah.
You know, I think that penalty is nothing compared to getting out of the TV deal.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've learned a lot about the TV deal, not necessarily with college football, what you just said, but I'm not surprised about it. But based on what I learned with professional sports, with their
baseball
TV,
is big.
I mean, that's how a lot of the stuff is, like, how the certain teams are so rich, too.
Yeah.
It has to do with their TV deals they have, and, you know, you see the exclusivity with some of these teams, or with, but at least back in our day.
Notre Dame's been NBC.
Yeah.
Forever, and they re-upped, I mean, years ago at this point, but I remember them re-upping.
Yeah,
that was the first time I heard of, like, TV deals in college. Like, I knew they had them.
Yeah.
Common sense says that Big Ten was always on ABC forever, and then all of a sudden they're on Fox also, and then SEC was always CBS, and I figured it was deals.
Yeah.
You know, but I just, you know, I don't know
what
I thought, you know.
In an easier way, in professional football, we saw it too when we were growing up, where Fox was the NFC and CBS was the AFC for the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
And it still kind of is today, but
it's a lot more mixed.
I've seen a lot more mixed, like, than I'm used to seeing growing up. Mm-hmm. So we had inklings, and I think those were the primitive type things too. Like, I feel like it's getting more intricate, especially at college sports.
Yeah,
because you can do it with conferences.
Yeah. And each sport has their own type of contracts,
right?
You know, like, I think the NFL's is more universal now, because I'll hear ESPN say,
yeah,
you know, check out the Monday Night Football game or whatever, you know, check out Thursday Night Football on NBC. Like, they advertise the competitor,
and all channels do that, because I've seen, like, I'll be watching the Bengals on CBS and they're like, here's this week's slate, and they'll be like, these games are on CBS, these are on Fox, the late night games on NBC.
Yeah.
Tune in tomorrow night for Monday Night Football on ESPN.
Yeah, they just
back in the
advertise.
day they never did that.
No, that'd be blasphemous.
Yeah, they're like, watch our channel.
Yeah, watch ours only.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just a segue on that. How do you feel about? I know how fond you are of the SEC. How do you feel about teams wanting to join the SEC like that, like big team, like staple teams from, say, the Big 12? It's that is the Big 12, like you said.
I get it money wise, traditionalist. I wish they wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I think ultimately it could be bad for the nationwide landscape of the college football game.
Yeah.
Because you're possibly making a whole half of the country irrelevant. I mean, there's a lot more coming. We got to see what like the Pac-12 is going to do, the Big 10 is going to do, the Big 12. There's a lot of conferences. Got to figure out what they're going to do, but outside of like your USC and Oregon and Washington, and then occasionally your other teams that pop up in the Pac-12,
like Stanford or something.
Stanford, UCLA occasionally, but it's been years, But like, essentially, out of those few teams, that the West Coast doesn't have football.
No,
not big time football.
That's how I feel these days. Like, I feel like if you want big time football, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, as a more of a casual viewer of college football, I feel like it's the SEC, the Big Ten, and then you got like the randoms like Clemson. Or the following of Notre Dame, or stuff like that.
When Florida State's good, or when Miami U's good.
Yeah, the U and stuff like that. But it's all East Coast and South,
Southwest, or Southeast.
It's predominantly, to me, to my opinion, it's predominantly two conferences now, as far as an overall conference: Big Ten, SEC.
Yeah, and they've talked, and that's something I want to bring up too. Kind of segue in is what's the Big Ten's move?
Yeah,
you think? Do they add in? I mean, Notre Dame keeps being adamant they're staying independent. They kind of played with the ACC last year because of the pandemic, and they had to be in a conference,
Yeah.
But and honestly, I'll defend Notre Dame on they don't need to go to a conference yet.
Nope.
They have the money on their own, so they don't really need it financially.
Yeah.
At some point, the playoff might be set up such where they have to have a conference. But currently,
for their best interest.
Yeah, for their best interest. But also, I give them, and I'm not a Notre Dame fan at all, but patience is probably going to be best for them right now.
Yeah.
To see really
see how it shakes out.
Yeah, see how it shakes out. Don't go jumping on an ACC bandwagon and Clemson does leave you, or don't.
Yeah, we're in the wrong conference.
Or do you really want to get mixed up in the SEC?
Yeah.
But I know the Big Ten. I feel like they have some poaching to do.
Yeah, I do too.
Maybe Iowa State. I've heard.
Yeah.
To solidify it, but then I've heard possibly UC, which would be great for UC.
I've heard that rumor before too.
But to segue, I'm jumping all over my notes now. But for the to go into the American, they have where's it at? They have a big contract with ESPN too.
Okay.
And I had the date somewhere, but now of course I can't. 10 years, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, they have 10 years.
Interesting.
Left in there, so it's like, to get out of that to go somewhere, there's just a lot of contracts going on.
Yeah. A lot of money moving around. And
a lot of money moving
around.
On. Yeah. So I'm thinking for me, so if you go to the American, I feel like and this is just me personally.
Yeah.
I think the American would be good to try to collaborate with the Big 12. Now, I don't care what you want to name it, both conferences go into one.
Yeah, I can see that. Almost like a merger.
A merger, yeah. They need to merge somehow, and
because I'm curious how that's going to affect the Big Five or whatever. For how the playoffs are set up, where
the Power Five conferences,
right? The Power Five, yeah.
Yep.
And it's are we going to go away from that eventually with all this moving around? Is that the goal? What's obviously this is just all speculation, but it makes me curious. If they're trying to. Kind of what you're saying before, it will water it down because you're going to have conferences like the Pac-12 that it's going to be watered down. But I even think about the really random conferences where, I know it's already hard for them to make the playoffs, but, what if you have that one, a BYU that all of a sudden just, is having
they've had a year. No, they have had that, too, yeah.
Right, so that's what I'm saying,
But that's where the expansion of the playoffs is going to help.
Yes.
Because of how they have that set up right now.
Yeah, and I'm happy that they are expanding.
Yeah, but that's still a work in works, if you will.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm trying to think what I was trying to say. Oh, so like I think the American and Big 12 combined would be good for both the conferences to stay alive.
I do too. I think it's the best move for them.
I say the American's the best non-Power 5.
Yeah.
Between UC, UCF, and South Florida, I believe.
Yes, South
have
Florida.
Been the big three that's been kind of carrying them.
I could be misremembering. Has Houston had flashes in the pan here and there too?
I think so, but nothing like...
Not like them other three, but I thought they kind of would throw in every once in a while.
They were in the battle, but I don't think they ever won the America. Or if they did, they weren't like in the let's do a New Year's Day game or whatever.
Right, like UC and South Florida and all that.
So, I mean, I know my opinion on that. I think for UC football, like one of my things was maybe let them move to the Big 12 for the money. Me and Adam have talked about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe because the money's there and they're still technically a Power 5, but how long does that last?
I know. It makes me think of basketball when UC moved to the Big East.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hell yeah, we're in the Big East now. This is a big-time conference. And I feel like shortly after that, like we had, I think, a couple years of, like, it's still big.
Yeah.
It just fizzled out.
Yeah, well, to speak on basketball part, Jay Billis had a comment. Now, he said, obviously we know that all the conferences, college sports is driven by football. That's where the money's at.
Correct.
So, but basketball is your number 2.
Yep.
Well, he said he thinks the best move for the ACC might be a merger with the SEC. Okay. Outright make a 32-team conference.
Yeah.
And he's basically be NFL or /NBA junior. That's going to be your farm system for the NBA and NFL.
I mean, it kind of is already, right?
It kind of is already. So if you combine them, you have one conference, and he's like, they wouldn't even have to play anyone else.
Yeah.
They could just play each other.
Yep.
And they're the most dominant.
The best of the best, if that's...
Essentially, minus some teams.
Yep.
But they wouldn't have to play anybody. They could take on the NCAA almost.
Yeah, right.
Like I don't know how. Like that's all he really said. It was a real short clip, but I mean, what are your thoughts on something like that?
I don't know. That's what I was gonna say. Like, part of me, it sounds like a cool idea because it kind of is already like that. Yeah. And then there's the other part of me, like the traditionalist side of me, is like, okay, so you're gonna put them in their own little bubble, and you're not gonna let teams that aren't in either conference that, whether it's football or basketball. You have those teams every once in a while through the years that they're a powerhouse for a few years or 1 year even. So it's like it makes sense, and I like that we're thinking these different ideas.
Yeah.
But I'm also afraid that it's going to block off other teams that could potentially be a champion, if you will.
Yeah.
Not so much basketball because you at least have March Madness.
Yeah, you have 64 or 66, whatever the hell team it is now.
Yeah, well, they're add-on games.
I still say 64, but it's like 68
to me it's 64.
Now.
Yeah, but
so they still have chances to get in it. But I mean, it waters down your teams recruiting wise and this and that.
Yeah, there's recruiting too. You're right.
And then football is just gonna be its own beast. Because I mean, how many teams do you take from that type of conference?
I know.
And I don't think it'll go that extreme, but I think I could see being three or four power conferences. I think the Power 5's gone.
Yeah,
I think the Power 5 is gone. I think you'll have
too.
maybe 3 super conferences.
Yeah, I'm thinking between 3 and 4 because, like, in my head initially, I thought 4 because the playoffs would have 4 teams. When they first came out with the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, boom, boom, boom. But like they eventually want to get to that where you don't have to be like on that random like non-Power 5. But now I'm kind of leaning more towards what you just said because I'm like, who's left? Like,
because what are they expanding the playoffs to now? Do you remember what they said most recently?
6 or 8.
Oh, it was at least 8. I was thinking 8, 10, or 12.
Okay.
So
yeah, I can check real quick.
Yeah, try to Google that. But so say they probably eventually go to 12.
Yeah.
And if I don't know, the way I lined it up is obviously you have the SEC. I think Big 12 is gone. Their name might still be around, but the traditional they have 8 teams left in the Big 12, and none of them are powers in football really. You have like maybe TCU.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Iowa State's been good, but I mean, I would put the remaining 8 in the Big 12. Put American teams against them. I bet they'd beat them. I'd put UC up against any team in the Big 12, including Texas and Oklahoma. Really, especially Texas. They haven't been good in years. So you don't have if you can't find it.
Yeah, I'm seeing stuff. I keep seeing they're pushing for 12.
12. Okay.
Yeah, so
I couldn't remember what the most recent one was. It's no big deal.
Yeah, so it looks like they're going to expand. Now you say that, I remember hearing that they're trying to push for the 12. Which with that, I'm glad. Not to segue to the playoffs, but I'm glad that they are expanding. But you don't want to do too much where it waters that down.
No, I mean, I really think it'd be. I don't want it to go this way, but I feel like it's going to. One cool idea I heard was the Big Ten to go after some of the West Coast teams. I think it was David Pollock, I believe, brought that up, or someone he was on the show with, one of the two.
Yeah.
They were talking about they should just go after Big Ten should go after USC and Oregon.
Yeah.
And just poach them, and like. He's like, hell with the travel. Like, I mean, everybody can get anywhere quick anyway now.
Yeah, regions don't matter anymore.
No, and then you have like your West Coast recruiting, and you're on all day, all night.
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's
it wouldn't
true.
be a bad idea, And I mean, I'm sure SC feels like left in the dust.
Oh yeah,
and Oregon's been good enough to, complain about some stuff.
Yep.
Lately, so
that'd be interesting. Like, I'm sure the traditionalist side of you would rather not. Get them because traditionally it's the conferences were set up based off region, right?
Yeah, geography.
But
and
now
stuff like that.
we've gone beyond geography and region because travel's easier.
And you got to do something. Big Ten has to do something.
Exactly.
They can't stay put because I mean, though they have Ohio State, they have Michigan,
TTUN.
Yeah, TTUN.
Michigan State,
Wisconsin,
Penn State.
That's really like your big.
Northwestern, baby.
I mean, they've been good lately,
yes,
but they're not your, they're not your staple though. That's my your big dogs. They could easily get left in the. Honestly, I think the two that would actually ever even get poached would probably be Michigan, Ohio State.
Yeah,
I could see Wisconsin and Penn State getting left in the dust.
Yeah, well, I feel like Ohio State and Michigan are the two biggest names in the Big Ten.
Oh yeah, they have the biggest brands for sure.
Right, and
Penn State
dissing,
probably.
I'd say Penn State, not dissing Penn State, and then Wisconsin is.
And Iowa has a much bigger brand than people give them credit for.
Yeah, they do.
They're one of the biggest brands in that section of the Midwest.
Yeah,
the middle part of the Midwest, the south part of the Midwest,
the flyover area.
Yeah, and of course you have Nebraska, that's old school, but they haven't been,
1994 or something random.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So I think Big Ten needs to figure something out. The AAC. I'll just call it the American because it's easier.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
That commissioner said originally this. Let me say these quotes.
Okay.
First, I seen where it says the American Commish, which is Arseco, is his name. Last name is Arseco.
Okay.
Said that he will aggressively poach teams from the Big 12.
Oh, okay.
But then as part of and then this is something I didn't bring up, I meant to earlier, so there was the whole ESPN involvement in the Big 12 going to the SEC. Well, one of the key witnesses today, they had like a whole Senate thing down in Texas.
Okay, yeah.
And, excuse me. One of the big witnesses to that was the Americans Commish.
Yeah.
That said they hadn't been aligning with ESPN in their contract. Like, of course, they keep the networks abreast of, like, what their thoughts are.
Yeah.
But he said all teams do that with TV networks.
Yeah, I can see that. Especially with the big money involved.
Yeah. So all conferences apparently do that with networks that they're involved with. But he said there was no ESPN money behind it or ESPN pressure to get them to do it. But then with that said, he did definitely quote this today, talking about... he will act in behalf of act in behalf of the best interest of the conference.
Right.
Meaning they're going to try to poach some Big 12 teams.
Yeah, he's trying to do what he can to help the American.
Yeah, I mean, why would you not? If you could get a hold of like even a West Virginia.
Yeah.
That's one of their big names. I mean, Iowa State if you could, but I feel like Iowa State's destined to go to the Big Ten. Because they're a big rivalry with Iowa, so Iowa State.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I get, when you mentioned Iowa State earlier, it took me a split second, so I was thinking of Iowa. And I'm like, no, that's Iowa. They're in the Big Ten. Iowa State is the Big 12.
Now, one of my ideas for the Big Ten would be to go down to Florida and go, especially now, because I said this before, I realized Florida State had contacted the SEC.
Yeah.
Or allegedly contacted.
Yeah, allegedly.
I said Big Ten should get them.
Yeah.
Why would they not aggressively go after Florida State to get in Florida and maybe even Clemson?
Yeah, and get some South teams.
Yeah, get the South teams that the SEC doesn't want. And then you got your South region. And I don't know, now let me ask you a question. Do you think the Big Ten should go after any of the Texas remaining teams? Baylor, TCU?
I think they should, kind of with the same theory of the Florida thing. If you can get some teams in Florida, put your roots in Florida,
and then get some roots in
Texas as well.
Which I think more so Baylor would be for the basketball side.
Yeah.
I mean, they had RG3, which was kind of their little year, but
Yep.
that's more for the basketball side. I know everybody's concentrating on the football side, but you can't forget about the basketball side.
Oh, yeah, because they're all going to fall into
And the Big
it.
Ten's, I mean, they're a solid basketball conference as well now.
Yeah,
they're
are.
definitely considered a football conference, if you will.
But it's weird in the March Madness. You see like teams like Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan State has always been pretty much a perennial with Izzo at coach. But still,
I would say in the early 2000s is when Michigan State went from football, what I consider a football school, to a basketball school.
like when Izzo started really.
When Izzo really started doing his thing.
Yep,
yeah,
same.
And Michigan State just weren't as competitive in football. They've
Yeah.
had their years, but
Yep.
growing up as a kid, I just looked at them as a football school, but that was a football conference in the 90s.
Oh yeah,
know?
And with that being said, expand beyond Michigan State. I'm still adjusting to getting used to Big Ten schools in general being good in basketball. I see them as football schools. I'm like,
yeah. I mean, outside of your Indiana, who always has been a basketball school,
sure,
and then
yeah.
you had your Fab Five at Michigan,
yeah,
but that was once upon a time.
yeah. And that was when we were young cats,
and that was just
young.
and that was just an oddball thing.
Yeah.
At least to me, but now that they're also considered Ohio State basketball is good.
Yeah.
They had the #1 recruiting class in football and basketball.
Which is wild because the basketball throws me off the most because you got teams like Duke, North Carolina, and you got even schools in our region
Kentucky.
For the longest, Kentucky, and even go back a few years at this point, but even the schools like UC, they were more of a basketball school back then. So that doesn't really defined today, but to me, it's the whole mindset thing where
the traditional,
I'm still getting I finally starting to get used to UC being a football.
I'd say, are they a football school?
I feel like they are now.
Yeah, I mean more than a basketball school.
But
now the nation will say they're neither right now, probably
right,
fully. Which not to diss our home team, but
no, but it's facts are facts. To that what their opinions are. Now UC is 11th in the power rankings I saw just before.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
So I mean, but the problem is the American. They're not a Power 5.
Yeah, they're
and now the expanded playoffs will help that when that does officially come around.
Yeah.
Which I know there's not a date on that yet. But
how do you feel about, since you brought up UC, the fact that obviously Fickle came down here from Ohio State.
Yeah.
And the possibility it would hurt Ohio State's recruiting, which to me I don't think it really hurts it that much because Ohio State has a bigger playground, if you will, because
recruiting's different than it used to be.
Yeah.
I'm proud of Fickle as a Ohio State guy.
As you should be too.
He's doing a great job at UC and I root for him.
Yeah.
I mean I kind of root for UC a little bit too, but I've always rooted for Fickle, he's a great guy. And that's where I think, back in the day, Ohio State was always said to have blocked UC's chances of ever being in the Big Ten because of recruiting.
Yeah.
They didn't want to give up their backyard.
Yep.
Recruiting's different now.
Yeah.
In my opinion. It's not. It's nationally. There's social media. There's so many other ways to recruit. I mean, hell, I don't even know. I mean, of course, Ohio State gets their fair share of Ohio players still because we're a football
definitely.
state with high school and all that. But I mean, how many players do we get from Texas, from Florida,
California?
From California. I mean, it's a national recruiting thing now. It's not, you don't have to fly to someone's home and that's the first time they ever heard of, Ryan Day maybe or whoever is in there sitting on their couch.
There's so much connectivity now because of what you said, even the technology, you can get, as a coach or recruiter, you can get film easier as well.
And it all started with national television, which has all been in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Essentially, when they really start popping off national television, cable, and, things like that. People really, tuning into college football. I mean, since we were kids to now, it's been ever-changing. Yeah. So, I mean, I would personally say that, not Ohio State, but Big Ten would benefit from UC also.
I would like to see it for the regional purposes and just to have the whole UC and Ohio State conference thing and
Now the thing I say just holding UC back from that is Nippert.
Yeah, size.
Yeah, it's about, I looked it up, I want to say, now don't quote me on this because it's been a while, but I want to say we were about 10,000 seats short of the smallest Big Ten stadium, which I believe was Northwestern's.
Yeah, it was Northwestern from what I remember you saying.
Yeah, so it was about 10,000.
Around 10,000 on.
Which, I mean, that's not much, but also, you got to look from the Big Ten's money perspective. What are they getting out of it? I mean, they're getting another competitive team.
Yeah.
But they already have some of the Cincinnati market and people like me.
Yeah.
So I understand, like, I hate to say it, but I understand why they went, like, Rutgers over UC back in the day.
Yeah.
'Cause they want to get that East Coast
Yeah.
market. So I'd love to see UC in it. I just don't know if they will, but I don't think it's because of recruiting as much anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that's what would be blocking them.
And I will say, as an alumni to UC, UC is a weird college campus in general. Being basically in the city block, we don't have a whole lot of real estate to build, which I think in this case hampers them as well with Nippert. But with that being said, it's not like there's nowhere else you can't build around here. We just built a soccer stadium, you know, so it's like there's areas if you really wanted to go after that.
Yeah. No, I know UC, in my opinion, needs to go get some of that money somehow. So if they get recruited by the Big 12 and that's something that the Big 12 would want to help them get out of their TV deal, this or that, I would say go for it. Nothing against the American. I think they're up and coming, and the American has a good shot at doing something right now if they play their cards right. Yeah. You know, and they just need to find a way to become a Power 5.
Yeah, and this might be the time, though. If they play it right, and you got the weakening of some other Power 5 conferences, a.k.a. Big 12.
But that's where I think the merger could come in. That would help
because they can help each other out.
Yeah. Because Big 12 needs some teams.
Yeah.
And no one, I don't think, I can't see SC or Oregon going Big 12 unless the Big 10 isn't going after them. But I think the Big 10 has to make some sort of moves.
So, so with Big 10 making moves, sorry, I want to go back on this for a second. But like you mentioned a couple of Florida schools, Texas, and then the West Coast. Is there any other like random schools that you would like to see them go after, or like I know like this is a bad example, but just like a Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame's gonna be independent, right? But like
but I mean honestly, whoever could get Notre Dame is gonna be good for the conference.
I think so too. I think it'd be kind of cool seeing them in Big 10.
I think the Big 10 would suit them best.
So do I.
For big matchups and stuff like that.
Yeah, just any, like in your opinion, like any, or is there any schools that you would like to see that?
My perfect scenario, if you really want to break down, I want SC.
Okay.
Oregon would be fine too, but if I can only pick one, give me SC, give me Notre Dame. Because then you revitalize that rivalry for yearly. Notre Dame and Michigan have a big rivalry. So you have that revitalized.
Yeah, so you got two nice rivalries already as far as rivalry games go.
Yeah, and you get to do them yearly again now, or however you realign your conference how it works out.
And you get a lot of people, like someone like me, even like I enjoy rivalry games even though I don't have a horse in the race.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better if I have a horse in the race, like the Ohio State TTUN game.
So I think that would help. But, I wouldn't mind seeing Clemson come this way. Clemson.
Yeah.
Like I said, Florida State. Miami U is kind of getting left out, but they're a big. There's a lot of fan base behind them, but they just don't do good consistently enough.
Yeah.
You know, I think someone should go after them, but I don't know who.
It's not like the U of the days when we were kids.
No.
But yeah, now you say that, they are forgotten. Like, we didn't really talk. I mean, we mentioned them, I think, once already in this episode, but like, anymore, I tend to forget about them. And they're like, when you think of their history, they're a big time.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if to look at it from a basketball side, do you think any conference will go? And I don't say all basketball by teams. They're not like Big East is all basketball because they don't have football programs.
Yeah.
But I mean, should a conference go basketball first? I guess I should say.
Instead of focusing on football first.
Yeah. Should like the Big 12 wave the white flag?
Yeah.
Say we're just going to be a basketball conference. I mean, I know the money's not there, but you might be able to get UCLA.
Yeah.
You say I want UCLA for basketball. You have Baylor, who's great. They have Kansas still.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? What do they start going after basketball type schools? What if the ACC starts crumbling?
Yeah.
So it's all a chain reaction depending on what's going on. But say the Big Ten gets Clemson, Florida State.
Yeah.
So they're gone. So now, like football wise, it's done.
Yeah.
Minus maybe the U. You know, really. And that's what we just said, hit or miss.
Yep.
So you get rid of that. So that's a basketball conference. What that happens, they have football teams.
Yeah.
You know, North Carolina's been off and on good in football, but nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
What does the ACC then do? Do they absorb Big 12 basketball schools, or do you go with some basketball conferences?
I mean, I could see that where either you can do the absorption thing that SEC is kind of doing, where like to me, the ACC is the big basketball conference even now. Like,
yeah,
to me,
it was always them in the Big East that were kind of the big ones.
Right. So part of me is thinking, like, does it turn into where you have basically football conferences and basketball conferences?
That's what I'm kind of getting
so, you
at.
know, it's
you
like
have football
yeah.
heavy conferences and then basketball heavy conferences.
I don't know
with
how
the exception of one or two here or there.
Sure. I don't know how I feel about that, though. But it's also
I don't think it's good for those conferences. But what other choice do they have but to go away?
Right, right. And if it's how they save themselves, I can see that.
The ACC only has Clemson and then Florida State because of their tradition.
Yeah,
you know, because that's always been Florida State's conference.
Oh
until, what 10, 15 years ago when Clemson got out of nowhere.
Yeah, because I know definitely growing up was always Florida State.
Yeah, Clemson was nothing.
Yeah,
they weren't basketball or football to me. They were just there.
Oh yeah,
you know?
I don't remember them
doing anything
back then.
I'm sure they did occasionally, but
sure, I'm sure there is. But I mean, I'm speaking on just even what I can remember from, because I don't, there's so many games in college, so like I don't remember them being a highlight like they are now. You know what I mean?
I don't know if it'd be just good for certain conferences, just to focus on their basketball.
It may be.
Almost wave the white flag on football and say we're a basketball conference. We'll try to make as much money off that as possible.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, I know it's harder because football's where all the money's at right now, but
yeah, but luckily basketball is the second.
Yeah,
it's not like they're college baseball. No offense to baseball.
No, but you can make a lot of money off of it too if you become like,
mm-hmm.
Win them chips in the basketball conferences.
Oh yeah.
So if you got like, I don't know, that's just my opinion. Is maybe Big 12 should wave the white flag on football and go after,
because they already have Kansas too, like you said.
So they have Kansas, they have Baylor.
Yep.
That helps them, and if they go get like UCLA or something,
yeah,
and then go get like Arizona. Who's been pretty good at,
yeah, they could do that too.
UNLV or something. I don't know. Just start building a basketball conference out of it.
Yeah. I mean, you could potentially do it.
Yeah. Now I know the focus is college football, so I don't know. Like, and that's also the thing about UC. I don't know if how long is it going to be good for them to go to a Big 12?
Yeah.
Is it really worth getting out of I'm afraid they go to the Big 12 and then it does falter, and then the American comes along.
Yeah.
That'd be
the luck. Our luck.
So I wouldn't. But I just don't. I think the Power 5 will go away.
I do too.
I don't think, and that's the bad part for the American. I don't think that they have a shot at being a power conference.
Well, that's the first thing I thought too when I heard the news about the SEC absorbing Texas and Oklahoma, is that this is the beginning of something that's going to be totally different in college sports. And I think you hit it. The biggest thing I saw was the Power 5 is going to go away. When, I don't know, but I think this is the beginning of that.
Now, we'll throw in for the ACC. They have a 15-year remaining TV deal as well.
Yeah.
I don't think that was ESPN. I think that was someone else. But they have a 15-year deal remaining themselves. So either of them teams actually leaving anytime soon might be a long shot as well.
Yeah.
So it's just hard to say. But I think, going back to it all, I know I've been rambling, but I feel like there'd be probably 3 conferences in 10 years from now.
Right.
3 big power conferences.
SEC, Big Ten, and then whatever
the other one would be called.
Yep, like the Big 12 American merger or whatever, yeah.
Or the ACC maybe, but that's all East Coast, so that means you really
Well, it made me think of a random question / observation. Maybe not really a question that you would have a direct answer about, but it's like, how would you feel if you were one of those random, like when you're listing basketball schools, like UNLV, made me think of like basically the mountain time zone.
Yeah.
Where like the Colorados of the world, the Wyomings, like,
yeah.
Like maybe when you live there, you're used to it being, probably have a West Coast favorite, but with the East Coast teams and the South being so dominant, you're just used to it type thing.
Probably.
But it'd be weird, like it's kind of going back to what you said earlier, like you're taking parts of the country totally out of it.
Yeah.
So, and it might be a bad example because, like, Wyoming has the least amount of population in the whole country. So,
no, but I'm thinking like California teams.
Right, but I'm just, like, really drilling down to, like, because I have my cousin lives in New Mexico.
Yeah, so you're thinking, like, the mountain, the mid majors already.
Exactly. It's just weird, like, the thing.
I hate to say, but most of the mid majors are just gone.
Yeah, and I guess more, not really a question than observation. This is weird to think, because we grew up in an area where there's a lot of major,
like Ohio State country, and
and we even have UC as an outsider. Where they're not considered a major, but they're like
they were in basketball.
They
weren't. They may be turning into a mid major, but they're not.
Yeah,
yet they have a chance to still stay alive if they get in the right situation. They've just gotten boned by they were in the Big East, which was great. It's like, okay, this is amazing, but that was also kind of like saying that you're a basketball school, though.
Yes,
like
it
at
is.
that time. Like even then, when the Big East was like, they had football, but like, how often did their football schools get respect then?
Oh,
now
yeah.
it was different because that was BCS era and pre.
Yeah.
You know, so when it came down to the Power Fives, it's just like how the playoffs work out.
It was definitely a basketball move to me. Like, you know, like you just said, Big East. Like I automatically think of basketball, even though the Big East isn't what it used to be. I still think, man, they have their basketball conference tournament in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
This is a basketball conference.
Now I don't know how the Big 12 how I don't know how the contract works for the playoff and voting and all that.
Yeah.
But the Big 12 has a vote in it.
Okay.
So when they're going to the committee, you know how they pick the basically. Do you know how they pick playoff teams, like for football, for college football?
To a degree, yeah.
So there's like a committee,
Yeah.
and they all talk about it, but they kind of talk about their own conference. Mm-hmm. So when their own conference teams come up, they got to leave the room. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember
the
that
whole scenario. So Big 12 has a vote though. They have a representative, which usually is a athletic director or team president. Mm-hmm. For example, Big 12's was Oklahoma's, and it's not going to be anymore. It's whoever Kansas State dude is.
Okay.
Because they were like, well, we don't want you representing our. If you're leaving us, we don't want you representing us.
Which makes sense.
So, so part of their vote, so they have a vote in it. And I don't know contractually how all that detail works.
Right.
You know, but they currently, at this moment, and for the foreseeable future, as far as I know, have a vote. So they're not going away in that aspect.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how they get voted off the island to have a vote.
Right.
You know, like, I don't know how what the contract says, like, you're a Power 5 and you sign this contract.
Yeah.
I don't know what the stipulations to that are.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if there's, like, you have to stay a certain amount of competitive or have so many teams or this or that. That'd be what I'd be interested in knowing a little more about.
Yeah, because I just know the general stuff that you explained.
But I just know, like, the 5 get votes.
Right.
You know, you have your Big 10, ACC, Big 12, SEC, Pac-12. Mm-hmm. They all get votes.
Yeah, and I remember you said they're in the room, and then when their conference gets talked about,
they got to leave.
They leave. It's like, that came back to me when you said that. But like, it's just interesting to see how that would work out going forward with like maintain a certain competitiveness.
Yeah.
Can you lose that, that privilege or that?
Yeah. Now the thing is I did see this stat. I think Adam sent to me, and it's going to be a little off on the dollar amounts because I don't 100% know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't remember exactly what he said, but so like UC for example is getting paid. I wanted to say it was like $400,000 as part of their TV deal.
Yeah.
That 10-year ESPN deal. I was talking about the American. Their share because they split it up amongst all the teams equally. So say it's a $2 million deal. Divide that by the 10 to 12 teams, whatever. Each one gets a fraction.
Yep.
Their fraction of that's like something like 400,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's and Texas's were like 40 million.
So like way more,
a lot more,
so
a significant amount.
I think
more.
I remember seeing that. I don't know if it was in a text or just a graphic on
something. Yeah, I feel like I might have sent that to you.
I know. I feel like
so that's your leave the Americans. My first thought's like we'll just stay loyal to the American because they're up and coming, but that kind of money, man, that can change UC's platform.
Oh, big time. And money speaks.
And Big 12 still has money.
Yeah.
For now.
Yep.
So you have to see how long that money flow can last, but because like I said, their TV deal is coming up soon, so I don't know how that'll affect them.
Right.
And maybe you wait for that. I don't know. Maybe you just ride it out, but I just don't know how long you can ride out with the current landscape.
Me neither.
And how long you can keeping Fickle for. He said he's going to be here for a while. He re-signed.
He's
saying all the right things, but we've heard that before in UC land.
I was going to say, we've heard this before.
Twice before.
Yep.
3 times before.
So it still makes us nervous, but there is something different about him where I trust him, but we've been burned before. I get it. So, like, you don't want to miss an opportunity.
No. And I think ultimately Fickle's the type that would want to stay here, but he wants it in the right scenario.
Yeah.
And he knows the window is short, so he knows moves have to be made. And I'm sure he's heavily involved in UC's talks, Americans' talks. And
I like to hope so.
Yeah. I mean, they're one of the big 3 in the conference. They have to.
Exactly.
Be. Or if not, Americans don't know how to do business.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean,
common
UC,
sense.
UC, UCF, and you in South Florida are your big dogs right now.
Yeah, it's common sense to include the big dogs in these conferences, these discussions, and help try to figure out the future of the conference.
Now, I heard McAfee say that he wants West Virginia to go to the ACC.
Yeah.
He's like, well, why not? It's more regionally and da-da-da-da-da, and that's where he wanted to go before, but apparently ACC didn't want West Virginia.
Okay.
And that's how they ended up in the Big 12.
Yeah, I always forget they're in the Big 12 until basketball season. And I'm like, oh, yeah, because like Huggins will be playing against Kansas or something for the conference playoffs and all that. But, like, I do like the regional idea, but that's the traditionalist of me.
Me too. I like the regional stuff, but yeah. Because even if you look at NFL, it's still regional to an extent because like they divide it by NFC East, NFC South, And for the most part, it works out regional.
For the most part, it makes sense, but then you get like the Dallas Cowboys are in the NFC East, but they're down in Texas. But the other three teams in the NFC East are
East.
Right
there.
there.
There's a few asterisks, but it's not like back in the day when like
gosh no.
When we were with Houston, Bengals were with Houston and whatever the hell,
You also know, like the Dallas example I used, they kept it that way because of the rivalries of
the traditional
the Giants
rivalries,
and the Eagles.
And you got to keep the traditional riverries to a certain extent.
I think so.
And I think that's
love
why,
those rivalries.
I mean, I think that's why Oklahoma Texas was a combo pack.
Yeah, keep that rivalry.
Yeah, and that's part of what UC missed too. Is kind of where they missed the boat on a few of these things. They didn't have those traditional rivalries, at least in football.
Yeah, I can't. I was trying to think of.
I mean, they had Louisville for a while.
Yeah, but like the traditional one that
because they just weren't that big in football,
right?
So there was never a traditional.
Yeah,
they just never fully had it.
Well, and I think technically, if anything, they did have a rivalry with Ohio State, like in the 50s or something ridiculous.
Yeah, way back in the day,
and that died away though. So it's like that was the rival, and then that went away, and then you can't use our basketball rival because our basketball rival doesn't even have a football team. So it's like you can't like carry it over. I'm trying to say, maybe we can start a football rivalry there. So yeah, that does hurt them. And like you said, over the years we have like the Louisvilles of the world, or I don't know. I can't even think of anyone else off the top of my head. I guess kind of South Florida recently in a way, but it's because they're a big dog.
Let me ask you. This is a random UC question. Do you care more about their basketball program or their football program?
I think now more of the football.
Yeah.
If you asked me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, basketball, but hands down. Because growing up, it was a basketball school.
So with that kind of a follow-up with that, so you'd be willing to sacrifice the basketball program if the football program could become big? I don't want to say Ohio State big, but, Oklahoma State big.
Well, big enough to even
big enough to
Ohio
compete.
State too. Yes,
big enough to be.
I would these days now. Yes, because I don't pay attention to UC basketball as much as I used to. For one, that's the easy answer. Two, at this rate, it's like I'm more of a football guy.
Yeah,
and football is, like you said earlier, is the moneymaker, the big moneymaker. And three, did I mention I like football? Football's my favorite.
No,
it would be cool to have them.
I know it's a different level, but North Carolina, you're also a fan of.
Yeah,
and that's more traditional. But do you think? And I wouldn't say maybe you, but do you think generally North Carolina fans or even yourself would be willing to do the same thing for them?
No. I want. That's a basketball school to me.
Yeah,
and I'm a fan or I like them, but it's not like I'm. I don't know.
You're not a diehard because you didn't go there, and
I don't like Duke. I like North Carolina, Jordan, all that.
But I just wonder how
stuff.
I guess my question is why do they accept being just basketball schools, and they make a lot of money off of it because they're one of the top.
I think that's why, because they're like the top.
You got to be top.
Schools.
Like, what do you got to be like top 5 to be okay with being just a basketball school?
I think so. I mean, don't you like Duke?
No, I agree. Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina.
I mean, there's at least the big 3 right there that you always can say. Kansas. So you got 4 right there.
And maybe UCLA.
Yep.
Those are your big 5 that you're okay with just being.
I would say so, because I know Duke and North Carolina, those two in particular, are definitely not hurting.
No,
at all.
No, none of those schools are hurting.
But you know what I mean. In the grand scheme of this conversation, where football does drive it, I think there's a handful of basketball schools like, we're perfectly fine being basketball schools.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, I didn't really realize North Carolina had a football team until like 5-10 years ago.
I was going to say that about Duke.
Definitely more so with Duke. I was like, I remember seeing. I think we played against them. UC did a few years ago, like in a random bowl game or something. I'm like,
and I was like, they have a football.
I didn't even know they had a football team.
No, I'm with you. So so it's a hypothetical, but basically, that's what I was getting at. So you'd be willing to sacrifice the basketball program.
These days, yes. Like I said, if you asked me back in the day, no. One, because it was a basketball school back then.
Yeah.
I actually followed them. So there is that personal, like, I hate to say it, I don't follow them.
I don't either. No, and I'm with you because it's funny. I've always been Ohio State football and UC basketball.
Yeah.
But I'm not so much basketball at all anymore.
And that's what I mean by, like, I'm not a big college basketball guy, period.
No. So anymore. It's funny when people say, like, are you Ohio State or, like, a UC guy? I just say Ohio State now because I assume they're talking football. And I don't hate Ohio State basketball per se, but I've just never...
And I do root for UC basketball. I'm not saying I totally threw away my fandom.
No, I'm not saying that.
It's not like the Huggins days where I watched it religiously.
Yeah.
Like, I still want them to do well. Putting that out there, my fandom's still with UC basketball, but in this hypothetical situation, if I only had a choice, I want to go football.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I think they'd be better off suited as a football team right now.
And another reason I say that's a real random reason, is you mentioned it way earlier, but Ohio is one of the big-time high school football states in the country. Mm-hmm. So add that on to my fandom, the fact we're a big high school football. This part of the country is a big Ohio or a big football area.
Yeah.
So why not dominate in the sport that this general area prefers, or whatever you want to say?
We're football, baseball, well before we're anything to do with basketball.
Right, with the exception of Indiana, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, let's go with the sport of our area.
Yeah.
Football.
No, I feel you. I agree. I was just curious.
No, yeah.
Because I knew how diehard you were of UC basketball.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean...
And then my add-on point to that is that as long as the NCAA tournament stays what it is, you always have a shot.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, like, I still root for them. Like, I think I'm also kind of bitter right now because I'm having a hard time with the transitions lately with UC basketball.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is not a basketball podcast, but we really messed that up. Getting rid of Huggins.
Back. That was the first mistake, obviously.
So it's like, I'm going to leave it at that because it's a football podcast, but I still root for them. But
yeah. No, I feel you.
I'm about the football.
But no, so yeah, I mean, a lot going on, though. I just hope UC doesn't get left in the dark again. Though I'm an Ohio State fan, I still want to see them have a shot at it.
Would you mind if I mentioned, like, the top 10 real quick, that according to the power rankings?
Okay, it's power rankings or preseason?
This one's called, it's their power rankings.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the power rankings on ESPN. At number 1, they have Alabama. 2, Oklahoma. 3, Clemson. 4, Georgia. 5, the Ohio State. 6, Texas A&M. 7, Iowa State. 8, Oregon. 9, Notre Dame. 10, actually North Carolina is number 10. And then UC's 11. I'm going to throw that out there because that's my school.
Oh, wow. I didn't know North Carolina would have been that high.
Yeah. So I just want to throw that out there just because I'm like, after talking to you, even more so on this episode, like, I'm ready to watch football. College football, pro football.
Yeah. I wish for UC they would have beat Georgia last year.
Oh,
to help their program.
We had that. That's what stings too.
Do they have any big games on the slate this year? Do you know of? Like,
not that I know off the top of my head, because I honestly haven't really looked at the schedule. At least not recently. I can try to pull that up right quick if we have time.
Yeah, we're fine. I don't know. I feel like they have another shot at least a New Year's Day game. They're obviously the favorite to win the conference. They brought a lot of people back.
Yeah.
Just American in general needs wins in those games, though.
Yeah, I agree. They need to get some big wins in there, and
I just wonder what happens. I mean, there's so much I could have touched on too, but like the SEC in general, man, it's just so deep. Like Texas goes there just to get their ass beat, probably.
We play at Notre Dame on October 2nd.
Oh, I knew there was one. Yep. That's what I was thinking of. I knew there was one big game. I couldn't remember who the hell.
And, yeah, besides,
is that home or away? That's away.
Yeah, it's at Notre Dame.
That's huge.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. I'm excited. October 2nd, 2:30 p.m. NBC.
That's the revenge.
Yeah.
The Brian Kelly
I'm very
revenge.
excited about that. That's the biggest game I see, though. I mean, we have, like I said.
That's the one I was thinking of. I just couldn't remember who, and I wasn't for sure if it was this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem. Opponents in years in advance, I get them mixed up. Because don't we have Ohio State again here soon? Or am I wrong?
I think so, but who knows?
Right, that's the thing. Like, it's just so, like,
yep.
I hear that, and I tend to forget. But with it around the corner, I'm going to start getting better with knowing our schedule. We start off with Miami of Ohio.
Yeah.
The rivalry game.
That's
air quotes, because we've been kicking their ass forever now.
Yeah, forever, yeah. But that was one of the rivalries.
That bell just lives here that we win in that rivalry.
Yep. But no, I mean, just in general, like, there's a lot of on-competitive teams in the SEC in football, too, though. Not that they'd get rid of them, but me and Adam talked about that.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're really telling me that you'd rather have Ole Miss than, like, a Clemson?
Right.
You know, like, or a Florida State. You know, it's like, at what point do they start cutting teams? If they do they? Or do they, like Bill said, do they just go 32? But like you said, like you were saying earlier, that leaves out a lot.
Yeah, it
Would
does.
you really like to have I mean, I wouldn't say, yes, maybe you would like to have 32 teams.
Yeah.
But does it include, there's probably 10 or 12 teams that you would rather trade out for someone, I would
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can really strengthen it then.
Yeah, not to keep saying Ohio State, but because they're my team, but I would trade Ole Miss for Ohio State if I were them.
Oh, yeah. Just basically if you take the 32 best schools in the country.
Yes,
type
that's
thing.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Type of things.
It's kind of like what the soccer leagues do over in Europe, where they take the top teams and put in their leagues. Like, which they have like 80 of them, so I don't fully know, but it's the round robin thing where like, oh, you're too bad to be in this? You're out.
And I've even said to go to that in past podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we go to a soccer type?
We talked about it in multiple sports too, like you know, like NBA, like they want to try different markets, different cities.
Yeah.
Well, if you say take the top 24 NBA teams, like even trim it down to what it is now, and there's like, say, 12 other that are in rotation that could join the league because they prove themselves, and if you disprove yourselves, you get kicked out.
Yeah.
Now that would hurt us, and like we also talked about previous episodes with NFL, because the Bengals could be one of the outside ones until they get their their shit together.
Yeah.
And get into the big dog. That could give you a
But
better
if money's
product.
on the line, when money's on the line, you're gonna do a little more. You're gonna spend a little more to make a little more.
Exactly.
So,
but I think it's.
But I don't know. There's just all kinds of things that go on in general.
But I think you bring up a good point too, because it reminds me of a famous debate you had with one of our friends about the overall strength of the SEC versus the overall strength of the Big Ten. You're not necessarily talking about the top part that's top heavy on both conferences. Yeah. But let's trickle it all the way down to the worst in each conference.
Yeah. So like
type thing.
Like I put my traditionally worst Northwestern or Minnesotas. Yeah. Up against your Ole Misses or Mississippi States or your Vanderbilts.
It seems like anything that you forget they're in the conference.
Or your Kentucky footballs.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Northwestern's waxing all those teams.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Most years. Like Iowa's a mid-grade team for us, and they're waxing most of your teams.
Right.
So...
But I didn't mean to bring it up that.
No.
That's kind of the whole thing. Like,
but but it's just and it's just in general though, because Ohio State has the shitty. I don't know. Like they say super conferences, but at what point do these 3 super conferences or 4, or however many there is, they're going to start cutting their loose ends, if you will.
The ones that are not making it.
They're bottom feeders. Yeah. And I mean, do you? I mean, I know there's traditional rivalries and stuff like that. Yeah. But some of the traditional rivalries you can cut both of them then, really.
Yeah, they can still have the Ole Miss versus Mississippi State game or whatever.
They can do that in the American or whatever.
Exactly. You can still keep the rivalry. But then there's the traditionalist again in me that's like, no, keep them in there. That's where they are. But
I'm with you on that.
That's the traditionalist side.
Yeah, because I don't like seeing Big Ten change too much.
Right, because then it's not the Big Ten anymore. Yeah, it's something new.
Yeah, I like the tradition of it. But with that said, that's my conference, and I want them to not get left in the dust.
Well, also with that being said, that's the way things are going now. You got to evolve.
Yeah, so and to kind of answer your question you posed earlier, like how do I feel about the SEC getting all these teams, because I hate the SEC. Yeah. I don't want, Ohio State to go there. Yeah. By any means. I'd rather them stay. Now, if they go, I'm still Ohio State guy. Yeah. That's where my loyalty lies, but.
I almost feel like if Ohio State ever went to the SEC, we're looking at when there's this power conference thing then.
That's when the whole thing changes.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't see them going just like willy-nilly. They're going to be a Big Ten until something forces the overall change where there's basically one major college football league.
I'd almost see them going independent before they went SEC.
Exactly.
Unless the money was talking that big.
True.
No, I get you. Yeah, if the money's
true.
Talking
the
that
money's
big,
talking big enough, then it's like, okay.
But if the Big Ten is holding them back from making a playoff at some point down the road, I could see them cutting ties before then. But that's why I think the Big Ten needs to be smart and make moves.
I do too.
They need to go after a USC and Oregon.
Didn't Ohio State consider being temporarily independent last year because of
Ohio
the COVID
State,
stuff?
yeah, they almost paid the money to not do it.
Yeah, that's why
if the Big Ten wasn't going to play, they were going to be like, we're out.
Yeah, we're playing.
We're playing football. So
did they ever have springtime football? By the way, not to be super random, but remember when they first started saying like conferences weren't playing because of the pandemic?
Yeah,
they're like we're playing in the spring. I never heard anything about any spring football.
It was small schools.
Okay, they did.
It was your it was your super small. A lot of your historically black universities.
Okay.
Those ones were in the spring balls.
Okay, interesting. I forgot about it, and then I was like,
there was a lot of them, and then your other. I don't want to call it D2. I don't know what the hell it's called now, so I still call it D2.
It's just not any of the big ones. Because obviously,
no, it wasn't anybody big. It was your North Dakota States versus South Dakota States, maybe.
Okay.
That Division II or whatever the hell they call that, and then there's your historically black colleges.
Yeah,
I know, because Dion was like the damn team he coaches. I forget their damn name now. I hate that.
Yeah, so do I. I know. Obviously, he's a coach.
He was coaching in the spring real games.
Okay.
Is what I'm getting at, because I was watching some of his games.
Interesting. Okay, I just forgot about it. I knew none of the big schools, like the huge schools, played in the spring because they all played they ended up playing last fall.
Yeah.
But since we're talking about it now, I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot that they were talking about that because of the fact that originally I think the SEC was the only conference that was going to play at first. Mm-hmm. Like,
which that's the one thing I guess I didn't touch on, which we are getting down to. We're past 1 hour now.
Okay.
So it gets me nervous, and this thing's going to cut us off time.
Yeah.
But I wish I'd touched on it more. Maybe we'll talk about it in another college too, though. But do you think any of them should go after the historically black college universities?
Yeah, why not?
I don't see why not. And I think they're up and coming.
Yeah.
They've been there, but I think a lot of them are even more up and coming because Eddie George is going to be coaching.
Yeah.
Dion's coaching.
Yep.
Somebody else, a big name, was going to coach. I forget.
Well, most of Dion's staff are big names. I remember hearing too. But yeah, there's more. And to me, why not?
Yeah, I think you give them a chance to get into the big time. So I think that should be talked about, and it's not.
Yeah.
On all this realignment discussion, let them have a shot.
Yeah.
At least the good ones. That's why I totally agree with the soccer method again, the football, if you will.
Yeah, football.
The earn your way in, earn your way out.
I do like that.
If we're going to do some wild shit like super conferences, let's just do that.
That's what I prefer if we're going over super conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
And you can have your 3 super conferences that you earn your way into.
Yeah.
Your 3 super leagues, if you will, and then they play like the Euro tournament like they do, and you just do the
Europe
NCAA football. Yeah, the NCAA football tournament, which would be the playoff.
Yeah.
So you just have you can still have your 3 super conferences, but you can have
the soccer style getting in.
Well, you can have your lower teams that are still affiliated with, though,
and
have your soccer style getting in that conference.
Yeah.
And then if you win that conference, then you can get into it doesn't. I guess when I originally was talking about it in my head, it was one big conference. It wasn't like it was just NCAA and then NCAA 2.
Yeah.
Instead of an NCAA 1 and 2, it's literally like you can have a subdivision of the Big Ten.
Yeah. Yep.
Instead of your just bowl subdivisions. You have your subdivision of the Big Ten that can earn their way into the Big Ten,
itself,
and then if they earn their way into the Big Ten, then you can earn your way into the playoffs.
Correct. Yep.
So that's how we should be looking at it. I guess I think I got myself off track with that, but now I see it with conferences. I'm like, that'd be even easier.
Well, I was thinking the same way you were originally.
Yeah,
but then we start saying
this,
like you can earn your way into the 3 major conferences if we get to that point.
Yeah.
Then they have their own feeders.
Yeah.
And then you're all fighting to get into this particular conference.
Yeah.
If you're in that particular conference, then you have a shot to win the overall championship because you're now in that big conference for that time being.
And I don't know how all the details would work, but obviously if you have No,
this is just us talking on the top of our head.
Yeah. I don't know if it'd be the top 2 or 3 teams that would rotate in and out. And I don't know how the soccer one works.
I don't either.
Probably something similar to that. I don't know if it'd be a 1-team exchange or a 2 or 3 team exchange or.
I always imagine it as like a 2 or 3, but I don't know. Yeah. This is how I always imagine it when it comes up.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that would be a year-to-year thing or that would be how that would work. There's a lot of details,
Yeah. I feel like you should give like a team X amount of years. Like you have 3 years, and if you keep shit in the bed, you're out. Yeah. We rotate someone else in.
But it's harder in college football because you don't keep the same teams.
I know. That's where it's going to get. That's where it would get tricky.
Yeah. So that's why I don't know how many times you have to win to earn your way up either, though.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know how the soccer does it with that either.
And God forbid your Alabama or Ohio States of the world don't make their conference. You have a bad year.
Yeah, and then it's like, they're not even in it, and you're like, what?
Yeah, I don't think that would ever happen, but I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But it did, and then Saban's head explodes, like, I'm not in it. And then, like, ESPN goes bankrupt because they're like, oh, no, Alabama's not in it.
So I don't think that would ever happen, but it's an interesting idea.
It is. It's fun discussing these theoretical ideas, though.
Yep. But, all right, that's about it for me, I guess. There's probably plenty more we could have talked about.
There is, and I think we're going to have some more college football / football in general, I know, episodes.
We're getting into football season, so
yeah.
you're going to be ready for a lot of sports.
And that's our big sport anyways on top of it, so
yep.
I think it's safe to should wrap this one up since we are over that hour mark.
Yeah.
Just stay tuned for more football podcasts. We'll be hitting a lot of that, I'm sure, like I said.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure maybe a college football preview, even NFL preview.
Oh yeah, we're pretty much football from here on out for the most part.
It's sounding that way, yeah.
We're pretty close to it.
Football heavy, at least.
Yep.
So,
all right,
well,
we're done.
I guess we're done.
All right, see you next time.
All right, see you.